from the well to the throne. Allah's promise was fulfilled. Welcome back to Storyverse. If you've been following this incredible journey of Prophet Joseph, thank you for being with us until the final chapter. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and turn on notifications so you never miss another inspiring story from the Quran and history. In our last episode, Joseph's innocence was finally revealed. After years of slavery, betrayal, and imprisonment, he stood before the king of Egypt as an honored man. But the greatest chapter of his life and the fulfillment of Allah's promise was only just beginning. The king had witnessed Joseph's extraordinary wisdom with his own eyes. No ordinary man could have explained the mysterious dream with such clarity. No ordinary advisor could have offered a plan capable of saving an entire nation. Joseph had proven himself to be more than a dream interpreter. He was a man of wisdom, a man of honesty, a man who never placed his trust in anyone but Allah. The king turned toward Joseph with admiration. "You are a man we can trust," he declared. "What responsibility would you choose for yourself?" Joseph answered with humility. "Appoint me over the storehouses of the land. Indeed, I will guard them with knowledge and care." The king accepted immediately. From that day forward, Joseph became responsible for the wealth and food supplies of Egypt. It was an extraordinary moment. Years earlier, he had arrived in Egypt as a slave, sold for only a few silver coins. Now, by Allah's will, he had become one of the most trusted men in the greatest kingdom of his time. Joseph immediately began preparing for the future. He did exactly as Allah had inspired him. Across Egypt, enormous storage houses were built. Workers gathered grain from every corner of the kingdom. Fields produced harvests, unlike anything people had seen before. The rivers nourished the land. The farms flourished. The people celebrated the years of abundance. Many believed those blessings would never end, but Joseph never forgot the warning hidden within the king's dream. While others celebrated, he prepared. Every season, large portions of grain were carefully stored. Every harvest strengthened Egypt's future. Some people questioned why so much food was being preserved. Others believed Joseph was being overly cautious, yet he remained patient. He knew difficult days were coming. Soon, the 7 years of abundance came to an end. Exactly as Allah had revealed, the skies grew silent, the rain became scarce, the fertile fields slowly turned dry, the rivers shrank, the harvests failed, the famine spread across the land. Not only Egypt suffered. Neighboring nations also faced hunger. Families searched desperately for food. Travelers crossed deserts, hoping to find grain somewhere. Among those distant lands was Canaan, the home of Jacob and Joseph's brothers. Years had passed since they had thrown Joseph into the well. Their hair had begun to turn gray. Their lives had changed, but one thing had never changed. Jacob never forgot his beloved son. He still remembered Joseph every single day. When news reached Canaan that grain could still be purchased in Egypt, Jacob gathered his sons. "You must travel to Egypt," he told them. "Perhaps you will return with food for our family." The brothers prepared their camels and began the long journey south. None of them imagined that destiny was waiting for them. After days of traveling across the desert, they finally entered Egypt. The kingdom was crowded with visitors from many different lands. Everyone had come seeking food. Eventually, Joseph's brothers stood before the official responsible for distributing grain. They looked directly into his face, but they did not recognize him. How could they? The young boy they had abandoned in a well had become one of the most powerful men in Egypt. He now wore the clothing of a ruler. He spoke with confidence. Years had completely transformed his appearance. Joseph, however, recognized every one of them immediately. For a brief moment, memories rushed through his mind. The well, the caravan, the slavery, the prison, the years of loneliness. Every painful chapter returned. Yet when he looked into the faces of his brothers, he felt no hatred, only sadness and gratitude that Allah had carried him safely through every hardship. Joseph welcomed them with kindness. He asked about their family, about their homeland, about their father. The brothers explained that they belonged to a large family. They told him they had once had another brother who was no longer with them. Then they mentioned the youngest brother, who had remained behind with their elderly father. Joseph's heart trembled. Benjamin, his only full brother, the child who had shared the same mother. The brother he had not seen since childhood. Joseph carefully hid his emotions. No one noticed. He provided his brothers with the grain they needed. Then, before they departed, he gave them one unexpected instruction. "If you wish to buy grain again," he said calmly, "bring your youngest brother with you. Otherwise, you will receive no more provisions from me." The brothers looked at one another. This request surprised them. They promised they would speak with their father. Joseph watched silently as they prepared to leave. Then he secretly instructed his servants to place the money they had paid back into their luggage without their knowledge. He wanted them to discover it only after reaching home. Perhaps it would encourage them to return. Perhaps it would bring Benjamin back into his life. Days later, the brothers arrived in Canaan. When they opened their bags, they were astonished. Every coin had been returned. They hurried to Jacob. "The ruler of Egypt treated us generously," they explained. "He even returned our money. But he made one condition. He wants Benjamin to come with us next time." Jacob immediately became concerned. His heart still carried the pain of losing Joseph. How could he risk losing Benjamin as well? At first he refused, but the famine grew worse. The food supplies became smaller each day. Eventually, after making his sons promise before Allah that they would protect Benjamin with all their strength, Jacob agreed. The brothers began another journey toward Egypt. This time, Benjamin traveled with them. Joseph's heart had waited many years for this moment, the moment his younger brother would once again stand before him. As soon as they arrived, Joseph welcomed them warmly. Then, finding the right opportunity, he invited Benjamin into a private room. The door closed. For the first time in decades, the two brothers stood alone together. Benjamin looked at the ruler before him with curiosity. Then Joseph smiled gently. His eyes filled with emotion. And quietly he said, "Do not be afraid, I am your brother, Joseph." Benjamin stood frozen in disbelief. Lo, Allah's promise was fulfilled. Benjamin could hardly believe what he had just heard. He stared into Joseph's eyes, searching for any sign that this was only a dream. But then he saw it, the same kindness, the same gentle smile, the same warmth he remembered from his childhood. Tears filled his eyes. "Are you truly my brother?" he whispered. Joseph nodded. "Yes, Benjamin, I am Joseph." The two brothers embraced after years of separation. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The years of loneliness, the pain of separation, the unanswered questions, all disappeared in that emotional reunion. Joseph comforted his younger brother. "Do not be saddened by what our brothers once did. Allah has always been with us, and He has brought us together again." Benjamin's heart filled with peace. He now understood that every hardship his brother had endured had been part of Allah's perfect plan. But Joseph knew that one final step remained before his family could truly be reunited. The next morning, Joseph ordered that his brother's camels be loaded with grain as usual. Then, quietly, he instructed one of his trusted servants to place the king's drinking cup inside Benjamin's bag. It was not an act of revenge. It was a test. Joseph wanted to keep Benjamin safely with him and, at the same time, awaken his brother's sense of responsibility, the very responsibility they had failed to show years earlier. As the caravan prepared to leave Egypt, a loud voice suddenly echoed through the city. "Stop! Someone has stolen the king's cup." The brothers froze. The guards searched every bag until they reached Benjamin's belongings. Slowly, the cup was lifted from his sack. Shock spread across the brothers' faces. They could not believe what they were seeing. They knew Benjamin would never steal, yet the evidence appeared undeniable. They pleaded with the officials. "Please, take one of us instead. Our father is old, and Benjamin is the joy of his heart." Joseph listened carefully. He saw something he had never seen before. These were not the same brothers who had abandoned a child in a well. Years of regret had changed them. They were now willing to sacrifice themselves to protect their youngest brother. One by one, they begged for mercy, but the law of the land had to be followed. With heavy hearts, They returned to Canaan without Benjamin. When Jacob saw them approaching, he immediately realized that something was wrong. They told him everything. The old prophet lowered his head. The pain of losing Joseph had never left him. Now Benjamin was gone as well. Yet Jacob refused to despair. He said with complete trust, "Perhaps Allah will bring them all back to me. Indeed, He is the all-knowing, the most wise." Then he turned away, remembering Joseph once again. His eyes had grown white from years of grief, yet his faith remained stronger than ever. Back in Egypt, Joseph watched his brothers struggle with sorrow and guilt. He knew the time had finally come. No more tests, no more hidden truths. He called his brothers into his presence. Then he asked gently, "Do you remember what you did to Joseph and his brother when you were ignorant?" The brothers looked at one another in confusion. Their eyes slowly widened. Could it be? One of them stepped forward. "Are you Joseph?" Joseph smiled. His answer would echo through history. "I am Joseph, and this is my brother. Allah has certainly been gracious to us. Indeed, whoever fears Allah and remains patient, Allah never allows the reward of the righteous to be lost." The brothers were overwhelmed with shame. They lowered their heads. "We have sinned against you," they admitted. "Allah truly favored you over us." Joseph looked at the men who had once betrayed him. He had every reason to seek revenge, but prophets teach mercy, not hatred. With a heart full of forgiveness, he said, "No blame will there be upon you today. May Allah forgive you. He is the most merciful of those who show mercy." Those words lifted years of guilt from his brothers' hearts. Joseph then handed them his shirt. "Take this shirt to my father," he said. "Place it over his face, and by Allah's permission, his sight will return. Then bring our entire family to Egypt." The brothers hurried home. Even before they arrived, Jacob lifted his head and said, "I can smell the scent of Joseph, even if you think I have lost my mind." When the shirt was placed over his face, Allah restored his sight. The old prophet opened his eyes. For the first time in many years, he could see again. Soon afterward, Jacob, his family, and the brothers traveled to Egypt. At the palace gates, Joseph ran forward to welcome his father. After decades of separation, father and son embraced once more. No words could describe that moment. Years of sorrow were replaced by tears of joy. Joseph welcomed his parents with honor and invited them into Egypt. Then, as his family gathered together before him, they bowed in respect according to the custom of their time. Joseph looked around at the people he loved. Then he remembered a dream from his childhood. The sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowing before him. At last, Allah's promise had been fulfilled. Joseph turned to his father and said, "My father, this is the fulfillment of the dream I saw long ago. My Lord has made it come true. From the darkness of the well to the marketplace where he was sold, to the palace, to the prison, and finally, to honor, forgiveness, and reunion. Every chapter had been written by Allah with perfect wisdom, numbing your inflection." The story of Prophet Joseph is not simply the story of one man. It is the story of patience when life becomes difficult. It is the story of faith when hope seems lost. It is the story of forgiveness when revenge appears easier. And above all, it is the story of trusting Allah's plan, even when we cannot understand it. Sometimes the well is only the beginning of the journey. Sometimes the prison is preparing us for the palace. And sometimes the delay we fear is actually Allah's greatest mercy. Thank you for joining us through all 8 episodes of this incredible journey. If this series strengthened your faith or inspired your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your family and friends so more people can discover the timeless lessons of the Quran. Until our next story, may Allah fill your hearts with faith, patience, and hope. Peace be upon you, and see you in the next journey on Storyverse.